Welcome everyone to our weekly webinar. For those of you who are here for the first time, welcome. We are glad you made it. For our regulars, welcome back. Thanks for joining us again. This week we are going to have on Leah Nelson. Leah is the Director of Production and Compliance here at Raffle Consultant. She has a ton of experience helping people understand and optimize their profitability for their businesses. And she's going to have a great session for us today. So we look forward to that. But I guess I skipped over my own introduction. If you've been here for a while, you might have seen me from months past. I'm back. My name is Bridget. I am the Associate Consulting Director here for Raffle Consultant. So I always have a fun time on these webinars. So I'm glad I get to be back with you this Wednesday. But before we get started, I have to read our fun little disclaimer. Some of you might have this memorized by now, but Raffle Consultant is not endorsed by, is not recommended by Federal Express Corporation, FedEx Ground, or Amazon. Raffle Consultant is not sponsored by, is not approved by, is not associated with, and has no connection whatsoever with Federal Express Corporation, FedEx Ground, or Amazon. All this means is that you will not hear any materially non-public information here today, but we do hope you learned something interesting and helpful for your business. Okay, so quick little plug here, some events we have coming up, really exciting as we close down our summer schedules. But our last virtual summit for the summer is this Friday, July 7th. That's going to be all day, just that one day, July 7th. And like I said, that's the last virtual summit for the summer. I think we have one more this year, but if you were not wanting to travel to Nashville, this is a great opportunity to learn more about the industry, get introduced to vendors in the space, and hear from our industry experts. We have an in-person summit if you want to come to our office. That is July 17th and 18th. And then, of course, one of our biggest events of the year is our Expo party for all contractors and potential investors to the space. This is in Las Vegas on July 29th and 30th. So coming up right around the corner, we are so pumped about this. It's going to be a huge year, lots of fun speakers and entertainment for you guys. But in our celebration for Expo, we wanted to give out a few little door prizes today for our webinar. So we are going to be selecting 5 random attendees from today's webinar for a summit ticket for our virtual summit this Friday. So 5 lucky people. These tickets are awesome, guys. If you have not been to one of our summits, they are incredibly helpful for understanding the space, and especially if you're looking at this as an investment opportunity, learning some tools to evaluate the business and just learn more about it in general. They're usually $695, $700 value. We're giving away 5 of those today, so you still have time. Text your little buddies, get them to jump on the webinar. We'll be pulling those names and we will reach out to you directly via email after this webinar ends today to let you know that you won a ticket to our summit. Okay, so those are most of my announcements. Today, Leah will be joining us to talk about maximizing your short-term profitability and your long-term equity value in your business. I've had the privilege of working with Leah for a few years now. She is really incredible, has a brilliant mind for these things, and has valued many businesses, looked at plenty of financials, and she is quite the guru. So I'm excited to hear her in just a little bit, but I do have some inventory to go over with you guys. We had 4 new listings this week, 1 Linehaul, and I think 3 P&D. I'll go over those in just a minute here. But before that, just a quick reminder as we're gearing up for the Q&A and Leah's topic today, there is a Q&A button, and that is what we want you to use instead of the chat button. So chats, I do not see, I don't look at those, but if you get it in the Q&A button, I will likely read your question off to Leah, and we will get that answered for you. But our inventory, I will go ahead and run through these, and we will bring on Leah and get down to business. But I wanted to let y'all know, this first one is in Western Mississippi. It is a 10 P&D route operation. It is listed at $680,000. That's around 57% of revenue, currently operating around a 14% EBITDA margin. It has 2 managers. This is a 15 truck fleet. This includes five spare vehicles. So great contingency there for your trucks. It has 12 of the trucks in the fleet that are either 2016 or newer for their models. It has a huge roster of drivers available for growth and contingency. This CSA services rural routes, which offer high growth opportunities and improved profitability. And this could be a remote ownership opportunity for somebody who's looking. This is in Western Mississippi. Okay, next one we have, next P&D operation is out of the greater Charlotte area. So South Carolina, North Carolina area there around Charlotte. This is a 19 P&D route operation listed at 1.6 million. That's right around 74% of revenue. This one's currently operating around a 19% EBITDA margin. So it looks like it's doing really well. It's going to come with 3 managers, and they range from 4 to 9 years of experience in this FedEx space. So super valuable there. This business includes a large fleet of 22 trucks with 3 spare vehicles. This CSA recently experienced massive growth. The roads here have little traffic and are very easy for drivers to navigate, unlike Nashville. This might be eligible for SBA financing. And this is, again, an excellent remote ownership opportunity for somebody looking to get in the space. This looks like a great listing just from what I'm reading off here. So if you're interested in this Charlotte listing, reach out to our team. Next one we have here is in Southwestern Ohio. This is a 14 P&D route operation listed at 1.2 mil. This is right around 74% of revenue. Currently operating around a 16% EBITDA margin. It's going to come with 1 manager and 15 trucks. This fleet is all 2019 or newer. This is in a growing and affluent territory. This operation is going to come from a contractor with over 11 years of experience in the FedEx space. So I'm sure if you wanted to learn from somebody who had incredible knowledge of this CSA and all the unique characteristics about it, that's super valuable. This CSA also features dense routes, which can alleviate long-term CapEx. So that is it for P&D. And then our 1 line haul listing we have this week that is live is a 7 line haul. 7 line haul runs, and that is 3.5 million. That's around 105% of revenue. This is currently operating around a 27% EBITDA margin. This line haul contractor has over 15 years of experience in the FedEx space, so he's been doing it for quite a while. This is a 12 truck fleet with 5 spares. This business is gold rated and maintains great company culture and operational structure. This business is a host to a strong roster of experienced drivers. And although there is no manager included in the sale of this business, line haul operations are conducive of remote ownership, and I'm sure you could figure that out. This looks like an incredible business here, especially with all of those long-term employees and drivers. Super good stuff coming out of Ohio. So that is it for our inventory. But just another reminder, I know I always miss things when I'm on here. If they're not in the Q&A, do not use the chat button. I wish we could just remove that. But that is all of my annoying announcements. If you made it this far, thank you. Now, without further ado, I want to bring on Leah Nelson to teach us a little bit about these routes, what we're looking at, how we can make them better, because we all want to learn how to make more money, Leah.
Absolutely. Well, we can help with that. So that is, I've done it, looked at, I don't know, probably thousands of businesses and tried to help them make more money and probably succeeded in most cases. So awesome. Yeah. So glad to be back on the webinar. Love doing these. So much fun. And like Bridget said, today we'll be talking about a couple of ways that we can connect with you and help you to improve the NOI of your business in the short term, and also think about some long-term things that could help as well, whether you're an interested buyer looking to purchase a business or a current contractor looking to make more money. So we can help with both of those things, both parties here. So we'll start first with the buyer side of things. So we always say here at Raffle Consultant, don't wait for the absolute perfect deal to come along, because if you do, you'll be waiting forever. There's really, really wonderful businesses out there, but I'd say none of them are perfect. So no matter how well a business is run, there's always going to be ways to improve a business or change operations for the better, or just tailor it more specifically to you and your needs. And there are also businesses on the market that need quite a bit of extra help. Perhaps the owner is selling because the business is operating poorly, or they're unable to make the improvements to the business themselves. So, really no matter what business you're looking at, there could be a few improvements that need to be made. There could be lots of improvements that need to be made. But as a buyer, no matter the situation, going into purchasing a business, it's always good to know ahead of closing on that business, what additional funds you may need, what sweat equity you may need to put in the business. And we're, again, at Raffle Consultant, we're here to help you figure those things out ahead of time, so you're not jumping into the business and learning it after the fact. So for each business we have listed here at Raffle Consultant, we do create what's called an operational improvement plan, or an OIP, as we call them. So we do that for every business. We do make these in conjunction with the prospectus, which a couple months ago, I don't even know when it was, several months ago, we did go do a prospectus walkthrough on a webinar. So if you didn't catch that and you want to learn more about the prospectus and take a deeper dive into that with us, I was on there. And that is on our YouTube channel if you want to check that out. So the OIP and the prospectus are really meant to marry each other. The prospectus is designed to show how the business currently operates, and while the OIP is meant to show, of course, how the business can be improved, how it can be operationally improved from so many different aspects. So it covers things such as, payroll, outlining which drivers are the most and least efficient. If the current is paying, market wages, or if they're above or below that, how that can be adjusted. If they're paying daily rates or hourly rates, and if those are the best strategies for the drivers on these routes. The OIP show maps of the routes as they currently run, and then maps of the optimized routes. If you were to, improve your performance, this is where the routes would be instead. A plan for your vehicle expiration. So any trucks that may, come out of service in the next couple of years, and how to plan for those. We'll also go through different truck strategies. So a couple of different truck strategies, whether you should own or you should lease, or lots of different things with that. And then we also show optimized financial projections. Like I said, the prospectus shows the current financial projections as the business is operating at the moment. And then we'll, with all of the changes that we outline to you guys, we do some optimized financial projections in the OIP. So I'm going to go ahead. We're not going to walk through an entire OIP today. I think that would take quite a bit of time, but we are going to walk through a couple of things of what you could expect with an OIP, and changes that, like I said, we'll coach you through, show you this on the business that you're looking at ahead of time. And then you can decide, basically, are these changes that you're willing to make? Is this a business you want to pursue, based on the changes that are possible? So give me just 1 second here to share my screen. I've got about 1 million tabs up right now. So, all right. Can you see that, Bridget?
Not yet. Let's see.
Here, I'll try it again.
All right, that looked.
Oh no.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. You're all good. Let's see.
Try to pull it up one more time.
You're fine.
Here we go.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is basically what we call an efficiency analysis. So we're going to walk through this real quick, kind of what it shows. Like I said, we'll do this for every business and every OIP. So for this analysis, we start off, we take every driver, we take 1 or 2 weeks of data, standard weeks of operations. We look at every driver and every route that operated during that set period of time. So starting off, we look at how many hours each driver's on the road. So you want each driver on the road delivering packages for at least 7 hours every day. So that's a fairly easy data point for us to look at. As you can see here in this example, a lot of the drivers are hitting that. There are a couple up at the top that aren't. I did block off the driver names just for privacy's sake, but a couple drivers in here, they're not hitting their 7-hour mark. So automatically, we're going to say, hey, we were going to want to look at the efficiency of these couple of drivers that are in the red. If you've got people in the yellow too, maybe they either need to be motivated more, they might not be motivated at all. And these are doing this analysis also prompts questions for the seller. So as a buyer, you can take this analysis and go forward and be like, hey, I see that so-and-so maybe isn't performing to their full capacity. Like, can you give me some insight into that? Maybe they're new, or maybe they're just not being pushed to their full capacity. So again, if drivers aren't doing the 7 hours per day, likely they have the capacity to deliver more volume, which can improve efficiency. The exception would be if you're ever looking at an analysis like this, if a manager is running some overflow packages, that were left behind during the day, or a driver needs a little bit of help, they're probably not going to be on the road full 7 hours. They'll just be doing a couple hours a day. So you'll want to know who the managers are. And again, all that's outlined in the OIP as well. We'll tell you who the managers are. And if they're running those overflow packages. So if you do have a full-time manager, you don't want them on a truck a full day every day. So we're looking at that as well. We also take a look at how many stops each driver is making every day. So depending on the mileage of the route, there are certain thresholds that drivers should be meeting, a certain minimum number of stops that they should be delivering every day to be considered efficient. The more miles you do, of course, the less stops you're going to be able to make in a day because you're driving more. But like I said, we've got all that information, happy to do this analysis anytime. But looking at that hour and stop data, we're basically able to discern which drivers are the most efficient with their deliveries, which drivers are the least efficient with their deliveries. So you go into the business knowing, who your big players are and who your maybe not so big players are. And again, go in with a plan on how to motivate them or perhaps get rid of them or combine some routes. So generally, again, if routes need to be cut or trimmed down, we recommend starting with those least efficient drivers that we identified. And then through this efficiency analysis as well, we assign the business what we call like an efficiency score in the OIP, which basically demonstrates exactly how much improvement can be done with the business's efficiency as a collective. So some of them have like one driver that's poor and they have a really high efficiency score, so no changes are needed. Some of them have a really, really poor efficiency score. They're running 5 more routes than they need to be. And then you take this analysis, identify the poor drivers, and we kind of coach you through how to combine routes. So that's, one aspect of the OIP. Perfect. Okay. So the next page here, this is another thing that, again, we'll do. We do a ton of stuff around the fleet. So this is called the truck expiration analysis is what we call it. So this takes the current fleet and it assumes that the routes will stay relatively the same, continually traveling the same miles, each day for the foreseeable period of time. Which should be the case unless you're making some type of radical change, in the next year or two, if you acquire more territory or something. But assuming that the routes stay relatively the same, this truck expiration will apply. But it demonstrates approximately how long the truck will last until it needs to be replaced. In this case, we consider them expired at 350,000 miles. Some of them can go a little bit longer than that, but that's about when you're going to want to offload trucks. I will say the truck expiration here, very helpful tool with planning. It can't necessarily guarantee when a truck's no longer going to be usable. As we all know, bad things can happen to a vehicle at every time. I always like to, say that, an engine can blow at any moment. So this is not necessarily gospel, but certainly can be a really great planning tool in evaluating around the time you're going to need to replace trucks in your fleet. So as you can see here in this example, we estimate, one truck will need to be replaced in the first year of ownership based on the mileage. So now budget to purchase a truck in your first year of operations. 2 in the third year, again, that way you can be like, hey, maybe I should put aside $100,000 or what have you, depending on your truck strategy, to purchase 2 trucks that year. And then 1 in the 4th and 1 in the 5th. If anyone ever needed it, we only go through year 5. But if anyone ever wanted to see this analysis extended, we're happy to do that as well. But again, if you know this information ahead of time, it makes it a whole lot easier to budget down the line over the next couple of years. You know approximately what you're going to need and when you're going to need it. So, and then beyond this truck expiration, we also help you look at a variety of fleet strategies to see what's the best fit for your specific business. So like I said, we'll take a look at If you kept the current fleet, what's that going to look like for you for repair and maintenance? If you decided to lease all your vehicles, what's the cost of that going to be? What are the advantages of that, compared to CapEx? Because with lease, you don't have CapEx, but purchasing trucks, you do. So we look at all those different factors. If you wanted to replace half the fleet, what does that look like? So we're going to walk you through all those different pieces as a buyer, again, so going into it exactly what to expect. I will say with the OIPs, as a white glove consulting client, so our acquisition strategy white glove, you do get 2 OIPs of your choice. So they could be listings from Route Consultant listed on Route Consultant, or listings from an outside broker or seller. So as a consulting client, if you find a business that you like from another broker, or maybe you meet a FedEx contractor on the street and you want to buy their business, whatever it is, we're happy to perform the operational improvement analysis on that business as well. And you get 2 of those. So it's not exclusive to just Route Consult listings. So I'm going to stop sharing for just a second and then we'll come back to that. I have another one here in a minute, but so for sellers, we do analysis for you all as well. Of course, if your business isn't performing, as well as you'd like it to, or even if it's performing really well and there's just ways that you want to save money, or, perhaps you want to explore some different vendors or just other options just to see what you could do to improve your business, again, happy to help with that as well. So we'll basically take a deep dive into your business and its financials and identify areas that you can improve, again, whether that's with the fleet or payroll, or some of the smaller expenses such as scanners. There's always savings to be had really anywhere. And similar to the OIP, we'll look at the efficiency of your routes in the same complexity, give recommendations on how to make your business run leaner if that's what's necessary. Other parts of the Profit Consult include a review of your employment agreement and strategies on how to improve that. So we'll walk through your employment agreement, with you. We've got templates and things like that as well that we can share if this is, if you want to take a look at ours and run with those. You will review your driver pay structure. So how you're currently paying your drivers, whether it's a daily rate or, hourly rate or what have you, how, again, we'll compare that to the market. And then we'll give you some alternate strategies that you can consider and strategies to make your drivers more efficient and, really inspire them to do more, with monetary strategies. And we'll also, we'll give recommendations on vendors and who can help you save money on a variety of products and services, depending on what you need. Like I said, scanners, bookkeeping services, all those types of things. So I am going to actually pull up my screen again. I don't know why I stopped sharing it. That probably wasn't necessary. So like I mentioned, we'll do a similar efficiency analysis to the Profit Consult as we do for the sellers, as we do with the OIP for the buyers. So that's something that's part of it you can expect. Another part of it here that I've wanted to walk you all through, it's what we call a route by route analysis. So that's what's shown on the screen here. We basically take the stops and the packages for each individual route using the weekly service worksheets and the current contract. And we'll basically analyze the profitability of each individual route. So we'll also take the driver wages for that route, like I said, specific stops and packages for that route and apply them to the contract, and basically get an outline of how much each individual route is worth, or not worth, how much profit they're making. So one thing I will let you know on this as well, the route by route analysis is not particularly designed to give an exact dollar amount of what the routes are making individually, like to a T. They're more to give a general idea of which routes are making money and which aren't. Because as you see here, this last route, let's say 137 at the end, it says it's losing $21,000. Is it probably actually losing $21,000? No, but is it one of the poorly performing routes? Yes. And so that's what this analysis is really designed to do, is show you which routes are carrying the business and which routes are maybe bringing the business down. And then you can use that in conjunction with the efficiency analysis for the drivers and, do some comparison there and know which routes to collapse into each other if that's necessary, or redistribute volume, or maybe redistribute some drivers. Is really what this analysis is designed for. So don't assume that Route 137 is losing $21,000. It's probably not, but you can know that it's one of the more poorly performing routes. As we all know, as current contractors know, and I think anybody who's worked with FedEx, it can be really challenging to completely accurately separate financials by individual route. I've tried to do it many times. I don't think I've ever gotten it exactly perfect, but again, I think the gist here, it's serving its purpose. But again, you can compare this analysis to the efficiency analysis and really make some solid decisions, some data-driven decisions too, on how to downsize or combine and make your business more efficient, which is really what we're here to do. Is and I get my whole purpose is to show you kind of data-driven solutions. All day long we can say, hey, cut 2 routes, but we want to make sure you're cutting the right 2 routes. And making sure, like I said, from a data perspective, from a financial perspective, you're making the correct decisions with your truck strategy and with your payroll strategy and all those types of things. So, whether you're a buyer, current contractor, no matter where you are in your FedEx journey, we want to make sure that you're maximizing your business to the fullest potential from a financial perspective, from an operational perspective, really from every perspective. So, again, I've done this a million times. My team has done this a million times. We're very familiar with the whole process and all the different aspects of it, and we can help guide you through no matter where you're at in your process. So if you're interested in any of these things or services, or have questions about other things that may be included or what have you, we're of course doing the Q&A in just a few minutes, so we can ask about those then. But if you have a specific business that you're looking at already, we can reach out to a member of our team. We can discuss that with you further on our website to see some of those options. So that's really what I've got for content today. And I'll stop sharing my screen again. Bridget, if we want to go ahead and open up the Q&A.
All right. Let's see. It looks like we already have some really good stuff rolling in. We will get started with a question from Tim. Tim wants to know about the metals program. He says, on the metals process, how does FedEx classify a new owner? Do they inherit the seller's rating? If the start is neutral, what is the evaluation period like? Do you know details about that, Leah? I know we did a webinar on an extensive webinar on the metals program a few weeks ago. So if you want to look back on our YouTube page, we had our experts in on the metals program. But I do think, Tim, you start back at neutral. Leah, do you have any other details on the evaluation period?
I don't.
Okay, yeah. So Tim, I would go back to that YouTube video that we did just a few weeks ago on the metals program. But from my understanding, you do go back to a neutral start, but I cannot remember what the evaluation period is like. Okay, next one from Steve. Steve wants to know, are the contractors paid by packages delivered? Leah, do you want to kind of break down like a quick overview of how that works?
Absolutely. So partially yes, and they're paid actually by quite a few different factors here. So contractors are paid by how many stops they make and how many packages they deliver. That's also broken down into the types of stops and the types of packages that are delivered. So each contractor has their own negotiated contract with their own negotiated rates. So they do get a charge for ground stops, which are considered stops that go to businesses, and ground packages, as well as e-commerce stops, which go to homes. And e-commerce packages also go to homes. They also get a fixed weekly charge that no matter how many packages and stops you deliver, you do get that flat rate. That's going to be the bulk of how you get paid. There are a couple other things as well. FedEx does pay you if you deliver large packages. So packages above a certain size threshold, you do get paid for those. You also get a fuel surcharge as well. And then you get paid for having your drivers in uniform as well as your trucks branded with FedEx branding. Those are going to be the smaller ways, but primarily, yes, packages, stops, and the weekly fixed charge.
All right. Next question we have here is from David. David says, we used to say, get rid of trucks around that 200,000 mile range. Is that still where we want to kind of cut it off, sell them, and see the value deteriorating? Leah, do you have any updated information on that?
Yeah, so 200 is still right if you want to basically resell it for kind of an optimal amount. Your truck isn't going to need a ton of repairs at 200,000 miles. That's the great thing. You can sell it at that point and get a lot more money for it. We do use 350,000 in the truck expiration because that's when you're going to start seeing lots of repairs needed. The truck's going to start breaking down a little bit more. So that's like a true between 350 and 500,000 miles is where we're going to see the truck expire per se. It's gonna not be usable between 300 and 500,000 miles normally. But 200 is where you want to sell it if you want to get the most value.
Great. Okay, how do you determine on-road hours? Is that from dispatch from the terminal until they arrive back at the terminal, or is that first package, last package? Any details about that?
I unfortunately don't know the answer to that question. I wish that I did. I don't know. I want to say it's from terminal. I don't want to give a wrong answer. Actually, I can find that out. And unfortunately, you are anonymous. But
if you send us your email, we will email you directly with that answer. But I'm pretty sure it's from your dispatch. Yeah. Okay, so next question we have here is from Daryl. Daryl wants to know, is there something like an OIP for Linehaul? What we've focused on right now is just P&D, but Leah, do we have anything specific for our Linehaul folks?
We do. So we do have an OIP for Linehaul. It's a little bit different. It goes through a lot of the same kind of base categories. Of course, we're going to look at your fleet strategy, which is very important in Linehaul. Because I would say there's arguably even more options in Linehaul than there are P&D, because there's the leasing options, there's multiple leasing companies, there's owning your trucks. So we'll do kind of a similar type of analysis for that. Same with payroll as well. It's a little bit different because drivers are paid by the mile, but we're going to see if you're overpaying them, underpaying them. Some people don't pay them by the mile. They do kind of flat rates, things like that. So we'll take a look at the payroll strategy there. So yes, we've kind of talked more about P&D stuff today, but there is an OIP designed for Linehaul. Yes.
Great. Okay, next one here is from Tim. Is the info necessary to complete this route analysis typically available to buyers in due diligence?
Yes. So, at Route Consultant in particular, I know because we've put these services and products together, we do try to make it where the items are readily available and things that are easily accessible. That being said, if you do find a listing through another broker or a seller, in theory, yes, it should all be available. Sometimes it can take a long time to get, and some brokers don't necessarily see the value in getting some of this information, so it can be a little bit more challenging. But we can work around that. But yes, if you do a Route Consultant listing, absolutely these things are available.
Great. Yeah, Tim, I would say from a consulting perspective, we always try to be very palms up in this process. If we get to see it, you get to see it, especially if this is something you're buying. We want you to be able to understand every bit of the puzzle. When our analysts put a beautiful document together, if you want to see the raw material that built that, that's something that obviously we would share with you. So next question here. This is interesting. They say, I have heard rumors, we love a good rumor question, that FedEx is changing the contracts from defined by geography or zip code to defined by capacity, and FedEx will start running DRO to make us more efficient by filling the trucks more. Have you guys heard anything about this?
I have not. Have you?
No, I have not. We can definitely check with our team, but so far, I can't see that happening, but we can definitely check with our operations guys and see if they've heard anything about that. Okay, really easy question here for maybe someone who didn't hear at the very beginning of your topic. What does OIP stand for, Leah?
Yes, it is operational.
Create it, maybe.
Yeah, right. Operational improvement plan.
Yep. All right. Well, I actually have a question. When we were looking at the efficiency page on the OIP, this is really probably my favorite page in any document that I've looked at because it's really clear. But how, Leah, would somebody find the information on their own to build something like that? Where are they going to find the hours and the package numbers and all of those things? If they were maybe looking at a listing from a different brokerage, what documents would they ask for in order to evaluate the efficiency?
So we get the source data that we get from the sellers is the weekly service worksheets. So you're always going to want to request that from us or from another broker if you're looking at that. So that's going to lay out all the stops, all of the packages, the on-road hours, all of those things are outlined on the weekly service worksheet. And the FedEx contractor, if they don't know what that is, which hopefully they do, I think most of them do, but if they don't, that can be accessed through My Ground Biz. Very easy to just download those documents and shoot them over. They're available every week. They're updated in real time. Super helpful document. We use them all the time in every part of our analysis. As far as actually applying the stop counts and things like that, the thresholds of stop for each of the mileage bands, that is information that we've got here at Route Consultant that we've built just looking at tons of businesses, so we can help out with that part.
Awesome. Okay, I have another question for you. If anyone else has questions and you're sick of hearing me talk, pop those in the Q&A and we will try to get to them. But my next question, Leah, in your opinion, or like what you've seen over the years looking at these different businesses, where do you feel like businesses are hemorrhaging the most money now?
Yeah, like currently, I would say last year, over the last, 12 months, fuel was, of course, a big one. That was really of no fault of anyone's because fuel prices just went crazy. But I would say definitely payroll is a big one. It's always a big one. And that really, and kind of tying into the efficiency, people just don't run their routes as lean as they really should. And so they're overstaffed in most, not most cases, but a lot of cases. That's going to be the biggest flop. Based on your revenue, basically the set amount of revenue you're getting from FedEx on a weekly basis. And let's say you make $1 million in a year. So each route should be making really between $100,000 and $130,000 on an annual basis. So with $1 million in revenue, you're going to want to be running probably 9 or 10 routes on average on a daily basis. If you're running 11 or 12 routes, that's 2 extra drivers that you have to pay that you really don't need to have on staff. So it all boils down to the efficiency. That's where you're going to hemorrhage the most money, is really on payroll. Of course, fleet strategy as well. I think that's, I don't want to say an easier one to fix because you have to have money in order to fix that problem, but I think it's a little bit easier to identify in most cases than the payroll issue, because the payroll takes a little bit more investigating and figuring out who are the ones not performing as well as they could, and then figuring out a plan to basically make the business more efficient and run as lean as it should. So I would say that's going to be the 2 primary areas that we see suffering.
Yeah. Okay. Another question. What's the turnaround time usually with these operational improvement plans, especially for someone who's looking at an outside brokerage?
Yeah, so that's a really great question. So one thing that is important with the operational improvement plans is getting the majority of the information, of course, in order to do a thorough analysis. If you are using an external broker, an external seller, it's really going to depend on how quickly they can get the information over. Sometimes they'll send everything but weekly service worksheets, and that's going to be like a really crucial part of the analysis. So we really can't move forward without that. Sometimes they won't send over little things and we can work around it. But we, making sure we have the bulk of the information, settlement statements, weekly service worksheets, payroll records, all of those types of things. If it takes us 3 days to get us the information, that's great. Sometimes it takes a month and a half. It really just kind of depends on the broker and the seller and who you're working with. But as far as once we get the information, a couple of days to put the analysis together.
All right. Anyone else? While I'm waiting on a few more questions to populate, for anyone who joined late, just wanted to remind you guys that we are doing a raffle for today's attendees, I guess. And this will be a ticket to this Friday's virtual summit. It's an all-day event. These tickets are normally about $700. 5 people will be chosen from today's participants. Super exciting. We have that virtual summit on Friday, and then we have an in-person summit at the end of July, or July 17th and 18th. And then we have our big expo party, biggest event of the year. And that is July 29th and 30th. And maybe you've heard our keynote speaker is going to be Kevin O'Leary from the Shark Tank. So we're super excited about that. But yeah, if you want more information on Expo, any questions about that, please reach out to our team. We have a ton of people who are ready to talk your ear off about it. Okay, back to the Q&A. We have a question from John here. John wants to know, how do you determine if a business is SBA qualified, Leah?
So that is a great question. So I also work with the SBA extensively. So the primary factor there is going to be if the historical financials support the purchase price. So they're always going to ask for the last 3 years of tax returns, as well as a year-to-date P&L. And the key is just making sure that the NOI, the EBITDA rather, so it's going to be the EBITDA on the tax return and the year-to-date P&L is strong enough to support whatever the purchase price is. So that's going to really be, I would currently around a 4.5 times multiple or less. Any businesses priced above a 4.5 times multiple are going to be really hard to get through the SBA with interest rates the way that they are right now. But making sure you gather those historical financials and that they're strong historical financials, the margins are high, and making sure that multiple is below 4.5 times when you're looking at the historicals is going to be how we determine if it's SBA qualified. That being said, sometimes it can fit that qualification. That's going to be the primary one, and it still gets denied. The SBA can be a finicky thing, but you're going to have a higher chance of success if you have that, have those things in place. Also, full businesses are way easier to get through than carve-outs.
Yep. All right. Next question here is from Phil. Phil wants to know, do we have a must-have list of info for an OIP?
We sure do. Yes. And we can supply that. I won't rattle it off right now. There's like 20 things on it, and it might take me a minute to come up with all from memory, but we do have a list, absolutely, of things that we need.
Yeah, Phil, if you want to reach out to us directly, someone on our team can get that to you. Certainly. All right, another question. We're spending a lot of time on the OIP. Is this only included in the white glove package?
I know that there's 2 included in white glove, and they can also be paid for individually. So if you just want a one-off OIP, I know that those can be paid for by themselves. It's just a standalone item. I don't know that they're included in any other services, but I know at least those 2. And if you want some more details on what that entails, the white glove or just the individual, happy to talk about that offline.
Yeah, absolutely. If you guys have questions about pricing and white glove package versus just OIP one-offs or whatever, I can talk to you about that. Or anyone in the consulting department. We have lots of different services, but these OIPs are so incredibly helpful. You do get to, like Leah said, with the acquisition support package. And yeah, so super, super helpful there. But they can be purchased just as one-offs. All right, let's see, who else do we want to get to here? Aaron, the OIP analysis, they do not vary based off of the cost of the route, because the information and the work that we have to put into it is the exact same, regardless of how profitable the route is or how big it is. All right. Leah, do you have any Linehaul examples of OIPs pulled up or ready?
Not that I could share now, just for privacy issues and names and things like that. But happy to send one offline as well.
Yes. So Steve, if you want to reach out to our team, we can redact some and just give you an example of what that might look like. Leah, what are some of the biggest differences between like evaluating a Linehaul business versus a P&D, I guess, just in the OIP pages that we include, since you're not looking at necessarily the on-road hours and the number of packages and stops like you would on the efficiency page for a P&D, what would that look like on the Linehaul side?
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing we look at on the Linehaul, that's, I would say, kind of the comparable thing to the routes, is we do analyze the runs from a mileage perspective. So there are, depending on how far a run goes, kind of it impacts its profitability. So shorter runs are generally less profitable, and there's kind of mid-road runs, and then there's runs that go farther distances that are considered more profitable. So we take a look at it from a run perspective and a mileage perspective instead of a stop and route perspective. So there's analysis in there on that. I will say from a Linehaul perspective, there's a little bit less that you can do. With the routes, you have a little bit more influence over those on, squashing them or making more or what have you. With runs, you have a little bit less control over that, but you still having the knowledge of like, oh, hey, maybe this run isn't super profitable. I can get some points for this and trade it in for a better run. Is how we would help more in that regard.
Yeah. Another question, when you're looking, you mentioned it really briefly, but when you're looking at data to put into for these numbers, how are you choosing the weeks to pull those numbers to get an accurate depiction of the business?
Absolutely. So we try to, of course, use the most recent data that we can. That's what we believe here at Raffle Consultant. The most recent 6 to 8 weeks of data is what we normally look at. That being said, there are certain weeks of the year that we'll exclude. So if there's any holidays, we definitely don't look at holiday weeks because, FedEx is closed the 5 holidays a year or what have you. Winter months can be hard if there's any type of inclement weather. So if we're looking at a business and we know that there was like a ton of snowstorms or something, we won't include weeks like that. So we do try to choose the most recent normal weeks that we can.
Great. I've seen just in my own experience, other data and listings where they've used these inflated numbers, or maybe they were like doing some contingency work or holiday stuff where you really are not getting an accurate depiction of the business. So I know we can show you exactly what weeks we took the data from to build the OIPs and documents that we use.
Yeah, and we don't use peak weeks. I should have mentioned that as well. Yeah, that you'll see some other brokers, they'll use data for like November and December, but that's when volume is at its absolute highest. So we never use any data for November and December. If you're getting an analysis done in January or February, we will try to use some weeks prior to peak so it doesn't skew the analysis, completely or at all for that matter. So we don't use any peak weeks either.
All right. We have another question here. What was the second document that you mentioned, Leah, from MyGroundBiz, in addition to the daily service worksheets that you use to analyze the routes?
Second document, I don't know specifically that I call, but from MyGroundBiz, we pull the settlement statements, and the weekly service worksheets are going to be the 2 primary documents that we pull from MyGroundBiz. And then the contract is also available in there as well.
Okay, we have a question here from John. John, I'm having a hard time understanding exactly what you're asking here. Maybe if you want to reword this, would FedEx move the freight through their terminal? Or not sure. It looks like a great question, John, but maybe there was a typo or two. Okay.
I think you may be asking if you sell your zip code to a neighboring ISP, it sounds to me like if they operate out of a different terminal, would they move the volume from that zip code to the terminal of the new owner instead of the terminal of the old owner?
I see. Okay.
Is what that sounds like to me. No, they will not move that volume. That new owner would have to operate out of 2 separate terminals.
Yeah, that would be ideal.
Yeah, that'd be really neat if they did that, but
really nice. Yeah. Okay. Any other lingering, burning questions? Pop them in there. Otherwise, we will kind of wind things down here. Leah, we talked a lot about the OIPs. Were there any other points you wanted to add about our profitability consults for people who are already in the space, why they should look at doing an evaluation of their own business, maybe some of the success that you've seen with those? Yeah,
absolutely. Like I said, even if you think your business is running, as well as it could, I kind of mentioned this at the beginning, there's always ways to improve you if you don't know what they are. Like I said, it could be small things like getting a different scanner vendor or what have you. So I think it never hurts to have someone else just lay eyes on your business and just offer a different perspective. I know sometimes when you're in something, you only can see it a certain way. And just having an outside perspective, really take a deep dive into what's happening can just open your eyes to things that you didn't know about before. We kind of affectionately refer to the profit consult as 5 for 15, or yeah. So it's $5,000, and the goal is to save you at least $15,000 annually. So that's kind of what we call it. And that's the goal, is to, like I said, minimum save you $15,000, which is, definitely not a small amount. So, and we can, save you more than that, depending on how your business is run. So, I would say, just having a second set of eyes on anything never hurts.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So we'll close it down with this last question, which I think is kind of funny. If you remove the acquisition debt service from the equation, is there ever a situation when a P&D business would not be profitable?
Yes. Yeah. There are plenty of situations where a P&D business
Yes.
would not be profitable.
But hopefully with the education from Route Consultant, you would not purchase that business.
Yes. Or at least, if you do buy it for a deal, buy it for a fair price and then go in and put your sweat equity in it and then make it more profitable.
Yeah.
So
A little fixer-upper.
Yep. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. Leah, it's always a pleasure. Thank you for your knowledge and your expertise.
Yes, thank you.
If you guys have any other questions after this, just reach out to our team. We went through a lot today. Any of the inventory that's interesting, any random questions, just let us know. But also check your emails because those summit tickets will be going out today. So, all right. Thank you guys. We will see you next week.
Thank you. Bye.